yes, here we go. It's Judgment Day. The court's in session. We've got Big Mark. We're a wee bit early. It's the earliest I've ever done a show in a long time, anyway. 6 o'clock, we are live. And obviously, it is because, as I say, we've got Judgment Day, episode 15, I think we're up to. I thought we'd have done more than that.
I thought it was
we've done
that too.
episode 15, it said me. I was like, really? I thought we'd have done more than that. Anyway, very good early evening to you all. I hope everyone's good. We will get all that good stuff out the road, and then we'll bring up. There's a few talking points, obviously, with the aftermath of last night. I think everyone wants to still get their tuppence worth in on that, especially myself. It was a shame that our stream went a wee bit ropey last night. Turns out Sky just stopped doing broadband for all their customers right across the whole of the UK, Northern Ireland, a lot last night. So it ended up me just on my own, kind of venting to myself, and I was kind of wanting a wee bit of a debate on it. So we'll be able to cover that, and there is a few questions that have came in for the Judgment Day show that Mark will be more than happy to answer as well, and maybe with the odd nudge and prod for me along the way. You never know. We'll see how we go. I hope you took that in the right context, Mark. Didn't get too excited. Right, okay. All that good stuff means give us a like, give us a share, slag the hair, all that good stuff. Also means if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, such as Balls to the Walls, like Jim Dolan, like Shay V. Murphy, like Daryl, like Balls to the Walls again, like Seamus Weatherall, good name, I love that, and San Fran Celtic, then it's $1.99 a month, but our content's always free, so nobody's begging you to pay it. The content will remain free. It helps keep the wheels on the road, and it means that obviously we're in a stage now where even once the subscription fees, the overheads are paid, there's a wee bit left over where I can now maybe reward each member of the team as we go every couple of weeks for a wee sort of gift. We Connor got one last week with his birthday upcoming and stuff like that. Anyway, it's not important, but just so you know, the bus is not trying to become, fucking Radio 5 Live anytime soon and like that, right? So anyway, without further ado, Mark, we'll get stuck into it. We're just going to start with one that wasn't a question so much as put to you, but one that I think is very important after the first Champions League game. Now, the transfer window shut, moment in time. You can then go, right, okay, you can timestamp that window shutting and make a judgment on it, for want of a better word. Then the Champions League group stage begins. We've played now. We've seen the squad Celtic have decided, or the Celtic PLC have decided to tool up their supposed elite manager with, and we can now look at that and timestamp it and say this is the squad that Brendan laid out for match day 1 of the Champions League. We can also look at other timestamps, such as end of year accounts getting released, or whatever it was, half year accounts, end of year accounts, whatever it was, and the day before they do it, we can look at the cash reserves there as well and start then probably to an extent muddying the waters with it a wee bit, because we're entitled to do that as fans, but also to go, that almost sticks in the craw, or maybe you think it's a good way of doing it. We'll debate it all tonight. Mark, Celtic, Champions League, recruitment, cash revenues, the board. Discuss.
I think they all go hand in hand. I mean, I think the Champions League, we spoke about it pre-season there. This was kind of unique for Celtic this last few years, where we had the guaranteed Champions League route. We didn't, no matter what we did, we were guaranteed that pot of money. So that tells you up for your recruitment. That also gives you the manager a clear vision of when the season starts for him. He's not got League Cup games. He's not got qualifiers. He's got nothing in the way before he starts the season. He knows when his season starts. And then the cash reserve rolls onto that as well, where Celtic had the opportunity to recruit the manager for the Champions League. Starts to go backwards straight away there, boys. I think Celtic had the money there. We've seen £72 million, just give or take. It was kind of a broad figure, £72 million. And then, I don't know if you noticed in the statement, but on Lawwell's statement at least, he referenced 4 times about this cash buffering, and the one he used twice was the one-off payments. But the one-off payment was Ange leaving and the COVID payments. That only amounted to £13 million, right? Which is a chunk of money. It's no insignificant. But that wasn't the difference between Celtic breaking even, boys. So that was still a drop in the ocean. So anybody reading that knew it was kind of like it was to throw you off guard. It's before somebody like us said, oh, look, all this money we've got coming in and you can't spend it. It's like they're saying to us, this is the guaranteed every season. And then they caveated that by telling us, the same board who told us that we aim for Europa, for the Champions League, but if we get Europa, that's fine because that's all we budget for. But they flipped that. They said to us, Champions League is what we've got just now, but we won't always get that. So I'm thinking in my head straight away, surely you'd try and prolong that automatic Champions League by getting more coefficient points, or at least give yourself a better chance through qualifiers. And I think, see the way you've lined it up, Celtic, Champions League recruitment, cash reserves, board discuss. It literally runs that way. It literally runs that way across the season. With all that set up, Celtic, the Champions League set up, the recruitment set up the way they could have wanted it, they cash to do it, the board didn't let them do it, and now it's time for us to talk about it.
Oh, love that. That's a brilliant way to round it up, Mark. I think you're spot on. I want to get, for what it's worth, I mean, when it comes to the shifting, as you're talking about, of the message that came from Celtic over the last sort of best part of a decade, you're absolutely right. It seemed to be we budget for Europa League, Champions League's a bonus. Now we don't actually really qualify for the Champions League often, so we need to have a cash buffer. At no point, and I said this last night, at no point in Celtic's history have they required £72 million of a cash reserve. At no point. Now, for me, and I've spoken about this before with you, Matt, the rainy day that arrived was COVID. That could have been the moment where you went, fuck, thank God we've got, what was it then, maybe 20 million cash reserves? 25 million? That could maybe get absolutely obliterated with this madness that's going on. Turns out Celtic had actually forecasted even COVID happening and took a wee tidy insurance payment in the most recent accounts. Keep your eye on the board. It is in the accounts. That one-off payment is there. It's in black and white. Then what I would say about the shifting thing is, are we then to believe, say some minor miracle occurs and Rangers actually can afford to sack Michael Beale and get a half-decent manager in, and they run and win the league? If that were to happen, Celtic finish second, we'd be back, Mark, to getting told that the transfer strategy is based on, well, we couldn't really put all our eggs in one basket because there was these tricky qualifiers to play. And then if we qualify for them, then we would have invested. But seeing as we didn't make it through the playoff rounds, then we couldn't invest this time either. I don't know which one it is. And by the way, see, just to make up for that, we'll sell one of your best players. Celtic got both this summer. We sold a player for 25 million, a record fee equaling some, and had guaranteed group stage football for the second year in a row. You can't keep having your cake and eating it, in my opinion. Not when so many other people are actually the ones that are baking that cake for you, in terms of the likes of yourself, Matt. There's so many other fans out there who are investing thousands a year upon year in a football club. That's what annoys me. And whilst all their prices continue to go up, Celtic continue to operate at a level they operated at 10, 15, 20 years ago. It makes no sense. The rewards get greater, ladies and gentlemen, financially. We can see that. It's stark. It's there in black and white in the books. But for some reason, that means we can't go an extra yard, half yard, anywhere further forward in terms of our expenditure. What do you make, Mark, of the argument that this boils down to? We can't afford £10 million and 70 grand a week players, though, because what would happen then is that money would evaporate. The way I see it, pal, is there's a massive gulf in between what Celtic currently spend and what they could realistically afford without remotely jeopardising the club's future. And if there were to be another COVID Mark II, to still have a 20, 25 million surplus in the bank. Bear in mind, if you were investing more in these players, and we worked with them the same way we have with so many others, they've transferred, we'll probably make a profit on them anyway. But as you touched on, maybe one way to qualify for the Champions League more regularly, pal, would be to have improved that coefficient along the way, rather than just being happy to be there. The odd win, the odd draw in the Champions Champions League goes a hell of a long way. If you were to finish second in the league, God forbid, that you would actually maybe be able to get automatic qualification to. They don't see this bit. This is what it feels like anyway, pal.
It's like they'll never speculate to accumulate. They would rather have £10 in their pocket than gamble on 20. But see, in business, surely you must need to gamble at some stage. I mean, you mentioned us spending less money than we did 10 years ago. I mean, am I wrong in saying that Chris Sutton in 2000 was the highest player outlay until Edouard in almost 2020? We're paying
So
less wages.
Chris Sutton was £6 million. Odson Edouard came in for £9 million. I'm going to quickly trigger you here as well because you'll love this. So what we're told, Mark, right? What we were told last summer by a lot of the Twitterati, you'll remember this conversation well. We were told by a lot of people that are jumping on my back in particular. In fact, no, both of us quite a bit. And they were basically saying, but look at the debt O'Neill incurred in that time. Completely forgetting the fact that the money being spent by O'Neill at that time wasn't with Adidas in the most expensive shirt manufacturing contract, Dafabet in the most expensive sponsorship deal we've ever had, and the Champions League now being around 5-6 times the value as to what it was back then. So how on earth would the same outcome arrive where it would be 15 million in the red by spending the same as he did in the O'Neill era? Get your head around that.
Well, Posh have probably got an extra 20, 30 different revenue streams that you didn't have in 2000. Celtic got revenue streams, websites, you name it, stuff they didn't have all the years ago. The price of a season tickets probably doubled in that time. Strips have went from £30 in 2000 to £80 now. So everything seems to be going up exponentially except Celtic's expenditures. And do you know what? So what? O'Neill's biggest outlay, just get back to it for 1 minute, was that first season. But look at the rewards. We go to a European final, a European quarter-final, Champions League for the first time ever, 3 home wins in the Champions League in a row against quality opposition. There was reward for that. Folk were excited about got a Champions League. There wasn't a team that could have rocked up at Celtic Park that we were scared of. That's the reward because, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't play football to try and have a good balance sheet. We play football to have exciting nights for the fans to win games of football. Now, I do know there's a board of directors that are there in place by the shareholders to look after the club, look after the money. But you know something? There comes a point where we need to say, look, you don't need to have constant bank balance success. You've got to try and get some success on the park. And before anybody hits me with won trebles, we all know that. I think a lot of that's in spite of the board's philosophy, but we're talking about getting to the next level. We're talking about a final team last night who I felt that this is quite indicative of what we're speaking about. Their turnover, they're spending they've got a £35 million turnover in what do you call that, staff for their players each year, right? Celtic's is 52 million, right? I seen that earlier on. Their average first 11 player is €7 million. Your average first 11 player is €3.5 million. So we're spending 17 million more than them on wages, and we've got players worth roughly half. So that tells me that okay, we're maybe buying the wrong type of players, but it just shows you that Celtic only actually got to the next level in buying the players they can afford, because we're getting plaudits this morning after some quarters, including Arthur Johnson applauding himself for competing in Europe against a team who's spending €17 million less than us. Since when did I'm showing my age here. Since when did an Alan Stubbs or a Paul Lambert or somebody come out and say, do you know what, we've gained a lot of respect after getting beat 2-0 last night? I was shocked when I seen Arthur Johnson say that, and I just thought to myself,
do you blame him?
Somehow why Marc Cairney is fed up with European football. That summed up for me, mate.
So let me ask you then, on Alistair Johnston, Mark, is that a message that he's giving because that's quite clearly the mindset within the club that he's operating in?
Maybe he knows the limitations.
I think it's fed down. I think it's fed down. I think it's ingrained now, mate. I think it is ingrained. Like, everyone just go out there and do your best. Hey, I just feel like that's the vibe now. I can't get my head around it. We talk about managers. Yeah, go on.
So I was going to say that was a pot 4 team. I think Terry said that was a pot 4 team, pot 1 team it was a pot 4 team, so they dressed up as a pot 1 team. Let's be honest, a pot 3 team. That team wasn't like. See if Celtic's ambition is to look competitive against Feyenoord, I'm sorry, then we've dropped our expectations, and it does filter down because the board have nullified my expectations. They're beginning to slowly nullify a lot of the fans' expectations, and
It's
it's affecting the
generational.
players. I think the players
Mark.
last year, points not plaudits not points. I think they'll be happy to win. I think the Celtic players will be happy to win a match, get a couple of plaudits, get a couple of wee highlight reels for their YouTube channel and move on. And you know what? Like, see, before you even talk about the performance last night, and there's debates all over the place, see, the aftermath of the match is probably more annoying for me because there's more questions than answers and what the
Yeah, I
ambition is
agree.
of this team.
I put that in the bio, believe it or not, there's more questions than answers. That's funny that you say that. That's
Oh, is it?
literally
Aye.
in the bio. Aye, which is funny. Stevie Kenny comes out. Stevie, always welcome on the bus, my man. He says, Mark's the accountant with his palm in his head. Now, this is the thing though, Stevie. It's not about being an accountant. Now,
No.
it is literally a fact when it comes to this type of business, right? Their job is to support the football operation the same way.
Yeah.
When I owned a pub, I had to give the best product of the actual bar the best chance it could of selling as many pints over the bar as possible. And I had to speculate and put on a live band every now and then. Do you know what? It was a bit of a dent, but it got loads of newcomers coming, Mark. And see, before you knew it, there was a knock-on effect. See, the next 4 or 5 Saturdays, all these new faces were coming back. They had such a great time the time before. So that expenditure there was worth it in the long run.
Aye.
What we're getting right now is a true. See, this is the thing. So Stevie's obviously still in the chat. He says, to blame them for last night is a fucking joke. No one's done that. No one's. Stevie, this is what you need to listen. You need to listen. You need to listen. You need to listen. What we're doing is we're now looking at what Celtic went into last night's match with, whilst the day before they posted such cash surpluses and saying, is that really reasonable? Is it okay to do that? No one thinks last night what happened during the 90 minutes in the park is because Peter Lawwell couldn't string a pass together. No one's saying that. But the players that were out there, and if you look at the options in particular, Mark, I'm going to reach out the substitutes bench. Because this was Scott Bain, who was third choice keeper when Brendan took over first time around. No, during Brendan Rodgers' reign first time around. Morrison, I think he's the B team goalkeeper. Yang, who is a raw 19-year-old, 20-year-old winger who hopefully will come good, by the way. Like you could tell he's got the technique, but he is a work in progress. No two ways. Are we allowed to call him project? Or is that offending people now? Which I love. People are now trying to shut you down even saying the word project. That's what you know. The reality is dawning. David Turnbull, he's been in the first team. Holm got sent off. Oh, to me is a downgrade on Giacomakis. Will he get better? We will wait and see. I'm not writing him off. Tomoki Iwata hasn't had a minute yet of competitive action till last night under Brendan. Bernardo, second substitute competitive debut last night. Forgot he came on because we were down to 9 men. Not his fault. James Forrest, still in there. Ralston, backup right back, that's fair enough. And Mikey Johnston. £72 million in the bank. That is your substitutes bench for the Champions League.
Well, we'll see the board. So let's look at it right. So with Palmer making only his second appearance, Bernardo making only his second appearance for a start, who could have made a difference, right? These players were brought in so far late in the window that it became impossible for Brendan Rodgers to bed these players in. Now that's a board thing. It's up to the board to negotiate deals. I'm pretty sure the first goal, you could debate whose fault it was. Personally, I think you've got to put some fault on Joe Hart. I think a better keeper, or at least a more, agile keeper saves that. So the board didn't get the manager, the keeper that he wanted. I'm sure he wanted. I didn't think Greg Taylor was great last night. We wanted a left back, and we didn't get a left back. I think last night's result doesn't just fall in the players' hands and the manager's hands. The board's probably got a bigger say on how successful Celtic are than any other part of the team. The manager can only do so much with one hand tied behind his back. Look at that. You just mentioned that squad. See if Celtic put that squad out for a pre-season match. You still be watching it with your fingers over your eyes, boys. And this is it. And Stevie Kenny, I'm sure he means nae harm in it, but it's not like us. I try to say we're accountants. Celtic are sitting on money, releasing statements to the stock exchange, which is basically a message to me and you and everybody else that don't expect us to spend money, because I've never seen a message to a stock exchange. I usually read them all. We all do now. We all become these kind of forensic
Mark,
accountants.
see very quickly, has the accounts became our version of the pre-season cup, where they want fans?
I've seen it. I seen it last
They
night.
want
Sorry,
fans to celebrate. Look how loaded we are, and Celtic have managed to condition generation after generation into going. It's almost like a trophy. Look how much. Look at our. Wait till the accounts come out. We'll wait with bated breath for how much have we got in reserve? It's almost like it's
18 million. Look, 18 million. We've got 30 million, and you know, and there's folk that they'll question. We still go like, I thought we said we get this. It was, and they'll question the small details of the accounts, but won't think to question the board who put the accounts together, or question the board's inability to back this team. You know what I mean? And last night's result, anybody that read that team sheet, and hand on heart, I wasn't expecting Liam Scales to be a player, but I tell you something, that guy can stay in the squad as far as I'm concerned. See when we get our first 11 back. And let's be honest here. Let's be honest here, right? Cameron Carter-Vickers aside here, right? You can look at Lagerbielke and Uroki. I think Uroki's in front of him, right? That's probably as our first 11. We didn't have many players who are injured. There's this myth that we've got we've got 3 or 4 in the one position.
Correct.
They're all centre backs.
Yeah, so
right.
Abada, could Rocky have started?
I think Rocky could have started. See, Abada, even Abada's up in there, because I do genuinely think that Abada, Palma, I think there's a genuine challenge there. I don't think we're weakened by Abada without a team. So really, let's look at it. It's not this injury lavished Celtic last night, late in Celtic.
Totally agree.
All your injuries came in one position. So basically, that 11 that we put out last night, I dare say Bernardo's going to come in at some stage, but looks to me like O'Reilly's going to be number 1 anyway. So and Hatate and McGregor's not getting shifted. So it seems, and then Kyogo's a certain starter. Maeda looks like he'll start until he drops down, indeed. And Abada was already out, as we said. So it looks like the only position that was weakened last night with the squad we've got is the centre backs. And
it's not quite injury ravaged, is it?
It's no, but see that's something I never noticed. Seeing you actually look at it, when you take a step back, if I said to you last night, "Oh, poor team," we both say to each other, "I know, but it's the best we can do with injuries." And you go, "That's fair." You go, "Hang on, where were the injuries?" And you would say, "Welsh, Kobayashi." You would all go boom, 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 and you say, "No, they're all centre backs." So it's not like, I think the biggest problem is, and this is another thing, are we running out of excuses that we're unlucky, or is the real matter a fact that in Europe we're just not good enough, Bhoycie? Because there's only so many times you can say we're unlucky. No, you in particular, but no times you can say we're unlucky. We hit the post. We're missing that killer touch, that last pass, that end product. But eventually you go, maybe it's more than just us being unlucky. Maybe it's us not being good enough.
Here's the other thing. Did we have the tools to maybe get us that finishing touch, that end product that you're talking about? I think we do. When you boast those accounts at the end, I don't understand what it's all for. This is what's baffling me. The product in the park is the most important thing here, Mark. And at the end of the day, we started this season not with as strong a first 11 as what we started last season. No two ways. The Champions League group campaign we go into, yes, TCV is a massive blow. Rocky, we don't know how big a blow. And Scales, for me, I can't imagine Rocky, not a baddie, being all that much more impressive than what Liam Scales was. Such a good game. A couple of really good games he's had. And I love that diamond in the rough, by the way, story as well. But I think we're hedging our bets on everyone being a diamond in the rough. I want to take you to 2 project players, 2 red cards. Now, listen to Brendan after the game before everyone thinks that now UEFA are against us as well. Brendan had no complaints of the red cards. I was not surprised that two project players in their Champions League debuts got sent off and had rushes of blood to the head. It's saturated, mate, the squad, unfortunately, with players with no experience at this level whatsoever. Saturated with it. And that is where the problem is. No one has any issue with the work the Celtic scouting network does in identifying, such as a Lagerbielke. Yes, he's given me the absolute fear so far, right? I'm not going to lie to you. However, he was in the top 50, like most, FIFA players. I don't mind us going for a player like that. If he's one out of a summer transfer window that the other players that are coming in, they'll be ready to hit the ground running. People think this is now beyond us. And this is when it becomes, Mark, very quickly before we move on to other stuff, I want your take on this. Is it now a generational thing where such has been the length of time that the same board has been in situ? Now, the years we've not won a knockout tie are no coincidence. When you look at that, but then you think of how much in a timeline that is, that's not just one generation, that's two, potentially three generations, mate. Now, this is how Celtic operate in Europe. This is all we can do, ladies and gentlemen. So we're doing our very best. And people now have an inferiority complex with your football club. And I'm like, no, it shouldn't be like that. They need someone to grab this by the balls and have a fresh look at it, fresh impetus, and go, do you know what? We are going to invest a bit more. But see what I think that'll prove. It'll give us a far better chance of winning the league, right, than there's been any doubt. And I know we've been good at that anyway. But that's KPI number one. See, then when we're in Europe, if we get these guys in, even if we still finish fourth, I bet we get a win. Not only is it £3 million in the bank, but coefficient points start racking up for each win, each draw. And suddenly we increase the chances of automatic qualification year in, year out for winning said league. And it all starts to snowball. No one seems to have these fresh eyes. It's the same vision as what it was 20 years ago, and that is budget for Europa League. If we qualify for the Champions League, it'll be okay. And if we qualify for the Champions League, well, we'll budget for the Conference League anyway. It's like, what? We seem to be spending less than what we did when we were in the Europa. We're now Conference League budget. It's bizarre, the whole thing. We made a net spend profit this summer, Mark. A net spend profit in transfers. Get your head around that. Then, before you even had the group stage money, do not sit and patronise decent supporters and tell them that this is all because, well, we don't always qualify for the Champions League, so you never know what will happen. I'll tell you what will happen. You'd sell Hatate the next day. The second we don't win that league, you start touting him out to clubs for the 15, 20 million shortfall. Stop talking shite. We all know exactly what you do. So the 72 million still has a big question mark over it, but Celtic fans are still left with the same questions after a European performance where we get 0 points, and for any of the plaudits, well, I don't know.
I think it has been tempered. At least the manager tempers it by saying our goal is to initially take it beyond Christmas. That's putting expectations on the players, but also satisfying the fan base that there's at least ambitions to get to third or at least progress in Europe. But the boards have already won a watch because you've got some is apathetic, some is realistic to where we are looking at the players we've got, and some who are that delusional they think the board's doing the best job. So the board can't fucking lose. I mean, balance sheets, etc. I mean, we could talk about them all day. But one thing that I don't have to be a financial expert to see what we've got on the park. And unlike anything else, the money that we all put in, use your taps, your tickets for it, everyone is Bhoycie. We don't do it so we can tell everybody we've got £10 million in the bank. We do it because we want to back the team, but we want to see the best possible players playing for Celtic. And we seem to be the only ones that's like that because the board don't want to see that. The board are happy to well, it's like it took us 107 years to get rid of the dynasty at Celtic Park, the Whites and the Kellys. But do something. It took 5 years, or it took 8 years for Fergus McCann's hard work to be undone, and we've found a new dynasty because it might not be the Whites and the Kellys.
What a point that is!
It's the Lawwells and the Desmonds. We've got 3 generations of Strackens there.
And the Strackens.
And 3 generations there. And you know, at least 3 of them. Two sons and a dad. We've got Mark Lawwell there. We've got Peter Lawwell in. We've got Desmond, his son's coming in. We've got the same board for 17 years. And it's like we've traded one dynasty who weren't very good at business. Let's be fair to them. They weren't very good at business, even though one was a financial analyst, the rest of it. And then we replaced them. I think that Kelly was a economics expert, believe it or not. And we replaced them with forward-thinking Fergus McCann, who brought season tickets into them, a brand new stadium, an infrastructure that got us Henrik Larsson, that got us the ability to attract a Martin. Took us a couple of years to get rid of that and bring in a new dynasty. It might not have the family dynasty and have this nepotism on it, Bhoycie, but see, look at the club. There's nepotism within. You've got all players in the youth structure, no matter how badly they perform. You've got ex-players within the club doing scouting, no matter how bad they're at their job. And you look at it, you get Gavin Stratton. I'm not saying he's good or bad at his job. Came for Scunthorpe. Does that qualify you for a Celtic assistant coach job? I'm not sure. His other son, he's a scout. Mark Lawwell, we found him because he was at Man City doing a different job.
He's in the City group.
He was a head of recruitment, which is a bit different for the guy buying the players. I think there's a wee bit of a disparity with his actual job was to what his job.
I'm sure his title was the City group, by the way. He was never, I don't think he was ever Manchester City's head of recruitment. He wasn't Man City's head of recruitment. I think that's been embellished a wee bit too.
I think he was similar to the guy who was supposed to come in under Eddie Howe, the guy who's with him at
Fergal Sharkey.
No, I love Fergal Sharkey. He's one of my favourite Friday night go-to music. But I just like, and do something. There'll be folk like my young brother. He's just come back to final this morning. He's what, 22, and do something. See to him, this is normal. This is normal, and they get travel there and get pumped. This is just the way it is, and he'll probably be happy if we get 3 points. He'll be happy to see us win a match, and to a certain extent, that has progressed for last season. But when you look at the groups we've had the last 2 seasons, is anybody trying to tell me we didn't have the ability at board level to strengthen our manager's hand to make that qualification no as less daunting? Because surely to God, a better left back or a better keeper or somebody to come on in the second half to support Kyogo, was that above us?
No, it wasn't, mate. No, it wasn't.
And if we mentioned buying the £10 million player, as you said, that's within our budget. Of course it is. It's not within our practices. Celtic are scared.
It's now not within a lot of fans' mindsets either, Mark, now, because it's now escaped them, though, because they don't know it. There was a guy, Stuart Miller, in the live chat last night. I love this. Stuart Miller, regular viewer of the bus. Fucking amazing. And he said, when we went to Seville, I think it was, he said I was 7 months old.
Oh, my God.
So that's all he knows. I think he was getting... I think he put that in. I think he put that in the chat because he was saying, like, because I was saying you're conditioned. Like, some of you, if you don't know what Celtic can do, and all you're told is you can't, your whole sort of support in life. And I think that's why Stuart had put that in the comments. Saying, look, I was 7 months old then. I think he was alluding to the fact it kind of is all I know.
Between that.
This is all I know.
Where was the factor? 2003 after Seville, who became part of Celtic again? Lawwell. Just for people who might not know this, Lawwell was in Celtic as a finance director when Celtic nearly went bust in the early 90s. A lot of folk don't know that. He was a finance director. Peter Lawwell, a young 30-year-old man. If anybody watched the Bustalgia episode I did on the as financial expert, he was a finance director. So he was, but that seems to have escaped a lot of people's attention. God, I wish I was about 20. But see, this is the thing. This is the thing. People don't like. I've got a stage now where I'm fed up celebrating failure, and that for me that includes Seville. I love Seville. It's probably one of my proudest moments as a Celtic fan watching Celtic in a European final. But see, since then, we've downsized, watched Rangers get to a final, watch a brand new club come for the 3rd division, get to a European final, and all we've did in that full time period is not won not won one knockout stage match. And Lawwell took over in 2003. He came in initially as some sort of somebody on the board, but it was high profile enough to be paraded, and the downsize started there. Not even the downsize, the mindset where we'll not go above our station. We'll not go into we'll stay in the shallow end, because see down there, it's too deep, we might sink. And I don't like that, boys. I mean, if Celtic, when Celtic bought their first stadium, they bought one at 11,000 people, and you were talking 3,000-4,000 was going to a match back then. Celtic for their very first days went, no, let's go for this. We're something different out there. And but yet, with this board, with all the tools, all the money to bring in the right social media people, we're still getting hit with birthday posts when things are going bad, bringing out that Celtic strip on the transfer deadline day. Things like that, just idiotic decisions, and Celtic have got the money not to make these bad decisions. I don't think the post about the finances the day before the Champions League was to annoy us. They either, one, don't realise how angry folk are, or two, it was probably the stock exchange rules that it had to be released very soon because they ran out of time. Because I think that must be the end of year figures up until, would that be May? Would that be May? I'm not
It would
sure, but
be end of June.
end
End
of
of
June.
June, I'm sure it
You
is.
might find that they've ran out of time not to release them. Because can you imagine they released them on August the 20th? We'd be all sitting in for 10
They
days saying,
wouldn't have
"Is
released
that
it. They
70
wouldn't have
million? Is
released it
that
in the
70
transfer
million?"
window. Do you know
Because you'd
what's
be saying,
funny? I said it was 70 million the whole way through the summer. I
"So
guessed that we
50
had
to 8." I have
70
50
million. 70 million. I
to
was like, I think it's 70 million. I knew it sounded like that.
8.
And do you know what? It it will frustrate fans, I think, who invest a hell of a lot in the club, and whilst their expenditure carries on going up, Celtic expenditure, for whatever reason, seems to keep going down. Anyway, we'll move on, Judge. But that was good because that kind of covered last night as well, because I think that was going to be where the conversation went, to be honest, between myself and Terry before the old broadband decided to just say, oh, in fact, do
you.
you know what it decided to say? It just decided to say this.
That's my favourite. That's my favourite. Definitely call that a gift.
Too good. A GIF. Is it a
Uh,
GIF? A meme?
mm.
Whatever, man. Right, okay. Phil McGinley comes in into the Judgment Day posts on the community page. Remember, when Judgment Day is going live, we will comment on the community channel. It's just on YouTube. There's a wee tab. It says community. I'll put up, get your questions in. So just layer the questions up for the next time. I will put up a post. Obviously, Mark's only done 15 shows in the last year, so we need to start getting this boy working for his money again, you know.
Yeah. Need to start earning my keep.
SPFL pay-per-view games, Mark, particularly ones hosted by clubs which have already cut Celtic's away allocation, which seems to be a wee bit on trend right now. How do you feel about that move? It's a bit of a cheek, or is it justified business decision? So they don't want your money in this hand, but they'll take it from the other via the TV streams.
Well, I think Sky played a blinder by installing this wee clause where clubs could, I think it's 2 or 3 times a season, they could sell their home.
6, I think it is. I think it's up
Is
to
it
6
6?
times you can do it. I'm sure it is.
Well, that's quite enticing for the clubs, to be quite honest with you. I don't find it hard to understand why they signed that, but what gets Phil's spot on, and I did notice this myself. There's a lot of clubs cutting the allocation of Rangers and Celtic. I think it was Kilmarnock that started it. Remember Steve Clarke's big speech, Rangers by, Celtic by? They started it because we used to get free stands there at some point. So they're happy to lock you at the stadium, have empty seats, but then on the other hand, sell you tickets to watch it in telly. I bought one last season for Livingston. A match ticket was £26 and I paid £20 to watch it in the house. It's like them
Was it
telling us,
20?
I paid 20 quid, aye. 20 quid, aye.
Because I bought one. I can't remember what game I bought it for.
Probably Motherwell, or there was Motherwell, Aberdeen, Hibs, Ross County. I buy them all because I'm an idiot.
I'm
And
sure it was 15 that I paid, but even still, I hear your
no,
point.
well, the other one I remember at 20 because the first thing I did was check the match ticket price was 26, and I just paid that for roughly that for the game this weekend, Livy. But it's like they're telling us we don't want you in our home, but we'll let you pay for it to watch it in your home. You know what I mean? It's like, so aye. So as that's why so a lot of people were thinking Celtic changed the kick off. It was Motherwell asked for it, and Celtic said, "I need bother because they're going to get pay per view." But I still think Motherwell's given us 4,000 for that match. I'm sure I've seen that on my email for offering tickets. I think we were getting like 4,000, but
See if
um,
it's Motherwell. See, let's just talk about that then very quickly. See
uh-huh.
if Motherwell are still given a right decent allocation where the product for a start looks better. The stadium is fuller, which is always just better for sport anyway. And they think they can then skim for the TV audience as well and don't back down, double down, if you
Mhm.
like. And they've went, do you know what? We're not going to be, silly about cutting allocations to 1,000, 1,500, but we're also going to give you the full allocation and know how big Celtic are and go, this will be a big gate day for us because
Mhm.
loads of their fans will also, who can't be within that 4,000, we know the 4,000 is pretty inclusive or pretty exclusive, I should
Mhm.
say, membership
Quite
group.
select, aye.
Um, I understand that. I actually don't have as much of a problem with that. I think that's making hay while the sun shines, Mark, for me.
Mhm.
It's the other ones I think Phil was alluding to in his comment that I
Oh,
can
aye.
understand that.
Well, I don't know if you remember this one, but this was only 2 years ago. St Mirren cut Celtic's allocation. Then they asked the home fans to donate £30 each to pay for that. Can you remember that? So St Mirren, they cut the allocation. There was a fan engagement, right? And they asked fans, do you mind getting moved after your season tickets to accommodate Celtic and Rangers? They're all going to say, no, we don't like that, right? So the board says, fine, we'll give you what you asked for. They locked three-quarters of the fan base out and then asked for a £30 donation. I think it backfired. And no, I think in Scotland we've got a real problem cutting our nose off to spite our faces in this country. We strangle the game to death. We overprice silly things. It's something that I hear spoke about every week on Off the Ball, and they talk some sense on that show. You tell me how you can wake up on a Saturday morning and just head to the stadium and just pay at the gate with a credit card and a bank card. No, not everybody's got like print at home tickets options already. My printer's broke for talking sake, so you can't go and buy them as easy as that anymore. You know what I mean? And you can't just walk up to the stadium. Like I dare say, Fir Park's probably 40% full at a home match, right? 50% full. Why lock fans out? Let them come up and just pay the game. Scotland does that to themselves where they don't allow for the last minute fan to come up and just pay the gate. I don't see the problem with that. I mean, it's not like you're going to be bumping the tax man. I think a stub will be dished out and you'll be entered into the stadium. And I don't know, we just always strangle ourselves. Whether it's TV deals that aren't looked at properly, whether it's sponsorships with Cinch that there was problems with the Rangers about that should have been looked into deeper before that one of the biggest clubs refused to display it, which could have led to fines for the rest of the clubs. It could have led to withholding of money. Do you remember talking about that last season? There was going to
Yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, this is all wee things that I don't think our football does well. And I think the biggest crime that football in Scotland does to itself is they don't engage or treat the fans the right way. You know what I mean? And I think it all comes. This Phil's question just sums it up. You've got clubs that would rather have empty seats. This is a new thing. The pay per view. There's clubs that would rather have empty seats than let 2,000 Celtic and Rangers fans in. Now that comes with a cost of extra police, but come on, it's into the thousands. It's not into the hundreds of thousands. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. In if there's a facility for the teams to do this, do it right. But then complement that by giving the big crowds as well. Take it on both. Take it in both hands. Take the
No,
money
you're
in
right.
both hands. We're Celtic fans, right? Our own club exploit us. So why don't you exploit us too? Take every penny you can out. It's because I tell you something. There's never been a game that I can remember where there's been enough tickets for Celtic fans to go to. Even
No,
home
exactly.
matches that are sold out, Bhoycie, there's 10,000 empty seats.
Exactly.
Folk are dying to get in. And away ticket, God, it's as common as sense teeth. You know what I mean? That's my it's the best one I can think of. But it's true though. It does. I think. No, Joe, we need. You remember because I spoke to you about this before on why the podcasts. Me and you did. Do you remember
Yep.
that the SFA invited? Is it Barry Hearn, the boxing promoter guy, to
Barry
the
Hearn,
SFA?
yes, it was Eddie's dad. He was the one who basically galvanised snooker in the late 70s, particularly the 80s into the 90s. And then he went on to do the same trick with darts, where
I
darts
mean,
went to Sky,
sport you can't even see.
started selling it the Hydro, mate. I was in the stands in the Hydro. Don't get me wrong, I was like, never again. But when it was like, because it was just like, this is pointless, I could have watched it on the telly. But see, when you're at the table events he was doing in big stadia, you're going, fucking hell, you get it. Because see, when you're at the
Sponsorships,
table seat in the Hydro, and you're at the table seats, you're looking around at a full stadium, you're like, this is the place to be. He created all that. Now, I'll let you go on because he did.
No,
You're
no,
right. He
no.
met the big wigs of Scottish football to give them some advice.
And the worst thing they did, this just shows you how stupid they are. The worst thing they did was invite the press along to the event. And he stood up and said, he looked at them all. This is what Hugh Keevan said on one of the podcasts. He looked at them all and said, if I was in charge of these all, I'd sack these. He said, I'm selling out events for a dartboard that people can't even see. You've got an alcohol law which isn't illegal. Your fans can't buy. It's a restriction of trade. You can't buy alcohol in your stadiums. Why are you not challenging that? So he's a pricing fans out of stadiums, but at the same time accepting cut price TV deals. See, that's psychologies, and you can imagine that it must have been like a shock on their faces. They invited the press into this probably because they spent a lot of money. I think they said it was like $100,000 or something for an hour or something the guy charged. But this is the kind of guys that you would get on a adventure. Not adventure. Get up as maybe once every season or twice a season. Come up, take a look at the book. Take a look at the structure. Get his people involved. Spend a couple of million, then watch the sport grow. Because see the EPL, 85% of the EPL is advertising and promoting itself. Because don't forget, Sky is Sky Sports. That's what pays for Sky, isn't it? Really, that advertising package. And so Sky's got an obligation to promote that as much as possible. But see, you get guys like, is it Eddie Hearn? Sorry, Eddie Hearn's it.
It's Barry who's the dad who came
Barry,
up.
sorry, Barry.
It was Barry who came up. Eddie does the boxing now.
That's it. These guys can tap into these resources, you know what I mean? And I'm going to ask a bit of a tangent, but
No, you're not.
These guys are the kind of guys that will say what we just said there. Take the money off the fans in the stadium. Charge an extra £1 for a burger as well. Go for it, but take the money off them for the TV. Don't just pick one. Get the alcohol ban looked at. Get the alcohol ban looked at yesterday, because he said there's no legal parameters, because there's nowhere within your alcohol license that says you can't do that. That's just something that our councils have put on there. That's something that we've added on there as a council. Whatever, that can be challenged in court. It's very, very taboo. Alcohol in Scotland's very taboo, but we've got the ability to challenge that. You know what I mean? And I know alcohol's probably a small thing, but the revenue that's
it's additional revenue, mate. It's additional revenue.
The revenue that's getting took off of your clubs. If you, I'm going to just try and be a bit calm on this. Let's just say you sell 5,000 drinks at a home match. Let's just say 5,000. That's probably quite small, right? And you're charging what they £5 nearly at Celtic Park for a drink. Come on, that's getting took off you every home match. And I've never seen anybody fling a chair off the top tier because they had one extra pint in the concourse. Have you?
No. I mean that debate. I mean, it's just naughty now. Do you know what I mean? It's just a complete lazy argument to justify that we had no problem with it. It's like no, you let hate crimes go on and on and on, and you had the convenient excuse of alcohol to just partner with it when it all came to a head, and basically alcohol became the reason for it all. But really, we actually listen to anyone with a reasonable head on you, they would tell you if they were going to the football, they only ever managed a pint if they were lucky. Do you know what I mean? That's it. That's not the make or breaker. That's not the make or breaker. So whatever people were doing before the games, they still do. Whatever they do after the games, they still do. A pint in the stands wouldn't have caused any issues. And like I say, we are maybe going off on a wee bit of a tangent, but I think you're absolutely right. When fundamentally you look at it, we've decided, and when I say decided, I've been very much on the other side of the fence for many, whereas I go, do you know what? I can see why they bit Sky's hand off to get the deal they did. The reason being, it's the only offer in fucking town. I see whilst no other offers come in, the valuation deteriorates. Sky knew they had a weak, though, a wounded animal. They knew, why don't we just 3 years early offer a 7-year deal? Because we'll get it at a basement bargain price. The real estate point of view is, is because Sky see a brand that doesn't know how to promote itself. It doesn't know how to promote itself. And you know what? I suppose when you look at the Sky TV deal and you add in the pay-per-views, if the clubs all do well for it, then obviously the 29.5 million a year it looks like could be very different come the end of each season if there is enough of that pay-per-view uptake, right? Which I think, to be honest, there will be plenty of. But whatever reason, they don't know how to brand it. You're absolutely right. But they created all this for themselves, when they started creating 12,000-seater stadiums, Mark, things like this. They made no sense. The clubs either couldn't afford to get into the league, i.e. Falkirk 2 years in a row. Fucking disgrace. That is a disgrace, not because I'm a Falkirk fan in any way, shape, or form. Still an Albion, mate. You know what I mean? Like, that's my team for there, so that's like the rival. But I would hate to see a team not get promoted because of how many seats they've got in the stadium, and for the actual prerequisite to be so ridiculous that it was almost going to absolutely, it would kill them. They're like, well, we can't afford 12,000-seater stadium, and who's going to be there anyway? Why is that something to start challenging with? Then you get to the stage where you're in retreat now. You're in complete retreat. You've marketed that badly when you did have the best of both worlds, a brilliant product in terms of production a brilliant production from BT Sport, and then the main game still being on Sky. The two of them colluding and basically putting in a decent chunk. It wasn't a lot though back then because Rangers, Sevco, Delete were appropriate. We're only just back in League 2016, so it was a bit of warming up. But it had got to the stage that we'd marketed it that bad. And this then comes back to the brand itself, the league, the SPFL, Neil Doncasters of the world. This is what it all comes back to. What do you value this at now? And BT went, we'll give you half the money we paid you. We'll give you the same money we paid you before, but for the full product, even though we only had half the rights. The same money. But we want the full rights this time, including the derbies. And Sky were like, well, we'll bid a few million more than that and get it all. This is all that was there. Because that 4 years, imagine of the exposure of both BT Sports and Sky Sports at a time where they were thriving, before the Amazon days. This is like 2016 onwards. And that's what you get left with after that said contract of 4 or 5 years, is neither broadcaster has particularly valued that spell we use. It's embarrassing, mate. And that tells you they're not proactive, and all they are doing is jeopardising any future competing in Europe, I suppose, from Scottish sides. Right, quickly, Judge, we'll move on to another one. We've got one more before we go. Back to the Celtic, all that business stuff. You're an accountant 1 minute, Mark. Now you're an entrepreneur. I can hear the comments coming in already. Right, okay.
Yes.
I don't know what they're saying about me. I just cover my eyes. Right, okay. Is it time to try out a new formation, i.e. a 3-5-2, especially now with the defensive headache, says Mikey Cole 8212. Matt Tuppenworth is, do we even have three centre-halves?
Well, the good thing about, I know that Scales did play in the left-hand side of the back line for Aberdeen, so you might find he could probably play there to the left of back three. My worry about the 3-5-2, I think we spoke about it last week, where I think it leaves you very exposed in Europe. Do you know, we weren't all that susceptible to counter-attacks last night. That's one thing I noticed. See the counter-attacks, Celtic looked quite
organised.
And they were very organised and they were disciplined. I looked at Arthur Johnson and Taylor, and whether you could a good game or a bad game, they were disciplined. You know what I mean, in terms of their position.
Totally agree with that.
And I think the 3-5-2 for me is an exciting. In fact, it was mentioned last night on match commentary that we didn't have I know it's lazy, like a John Hartson or even a Giakoumakis type. See that out ball, that does allow you to bring in your wide players in a 3-5-2, and we've not got that out ball. We've got wide players, so but who's going to bring the wide players in? If you're playing a long ball, then you're going to have to totally avoid the midfield. You got to bypass them straight away. I'm not entirely sure if a 3-5-2 works unless you've got the players that are suited to that style. I think Martinelli's 3-5-2, he had the players that were he had his back three, he had pacey guys like Agat, Martin Marek could go up and down, he had Bobby Petr
He moulded it, mate. Let's be real
He
here.
moulded it.
He got these guys to be able to play this role.
This is that. And I think, this team doesn't look like it's a team of giants either. So is a 3-5-2 going to suit? I don't think it is. And I think they're still trying to knit in Rodgers' system. I think that's still quite in early stages of mastering how he wants to play his football. But we did see last Saturday with Greg Taylor a wee shift in the dynamics at the back. I think Greg Taylor was coming in quite a lot. He was going into midfield more often than not. He was sitting on attack.
He just played inverted, didn't he? He just played inverted.
At one point, he was at the right. You know what I mean? That's how much he was inverted. And
he was at one point. There was it a low corner that was played, and he nicked it at the near post, and he missed it. I was like, I don't know if he's been given a. I was like, is a left back be given a free roll today? Like, is that the first left? As Brendan gone, how do we get form at you? Well, I love playing inverted. Or just do what you want. You can't be as bad as you've been the last few weeks.
If it clicks, just stay there. I mean, as I say, that my eyes are terrible. I mean, I did think to myself, that's no Greg Taylor. I mean, it could be Greg Taylor, it could be Reggie Blinker with my eyes. I don't really know the difference, but I just seen, I was like, where's Greg Taylor? But so there must be tinkering going on behind the scenes. Rodgers must. The things we're seeing about the slow football, it's speeding up. The things we're seeing about the exposure at the back, that's getting tightened up. So Rodgers is fixing these problems. I think.
I agree.
I think even last night he was making when Celtic were getting like a wee bit of pressure for a couple of minutes. The play was getting broken up by the players. The ball was going out for a side. They were taking their time. Players were going down. It just looked a bit more tactical for me yesterday, and I'm not all that.
I've got one final question for you, Judge.
Okay, I was going one more thing. I was going to say.
Sorry,
I thought that was two very average teams last night playing. I thought Feyenoord, Honey Hut, second gear. They just couldn't find a stride last night, and when that happens, I think it makes our performance look better than it actually was, and. For us to get beat 2-0 with 9 men probably indicates just how poor a standard opposition that actually was last night, considering everything else. Just quickly, that's all I had to say.
No, I like it. One last thing. Had Ange Postecoglou been in the dugout, I'm going to do it. I don't care what anyone says. If he'd been in the dugout last night, same adversities occur, same team away from home, same squad. Would he have came away with a 2-0 defeat, or would it have been worse?
Oh, definitely would have been worse. No doubt about it. His conscience didn't let him take a step back and do the best for the team. I think we mentioned before, it's plaudits, no points for him, and I still think it'll be he's out doing it at Spurs. I think he's in the crest of a wave just now, but trust me, that'll collapse. I just don't know. See, Rodgers. There's no competition as far as I'm concerned. His tactical ability, his awareness of what's going on in the park. There was one point the camera spanned to him. I feel sorry for the guy. It was like the 43rd minute. He was just taking his wee notes. And then
yes.
Free kicks given, and then they scored. And I thought to myself, he was probably telling folk the big X on it now. I thought he probably had it half time. I'm going to execute plan B.
I agree.
No plan B. Stage B, or whatever it is in these processes.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's a great point. Yes.
And I love that about Rodgers. And I'll never forget this. Like, I've seen the camera footage, but I actually remember seeing it. I mean, remember when they brought Edouard on at Ibrox, right? And people show it all the time. There was the previous game to that, or 2 weeks before that, something happened similar, and he brought in 2 strikers when he shouldn't have. When he brought in Edouard and Dembele, and I turned to my brother. I went, "That's the right move." No, that I'm an expert. I says, he's doing it again. I know what he's doing. He's getting that out ball. He's chasing. He's about to win this game. He's getting that out ball. The very worst he's got to do is frustrate him the full match by holding the ball up, i.e. Samurai style. You know what I mean? And we won the game because of it. And that isn't a guy who's stumbled upon a Celtic tracksuit and just come into management. That's a guy who's operated at the highest level. A guy in his 30s, younger than me, took Liverpool for one slip away from winning the Premier League.
That's fine.
And he was a young man at Celtic, and he's still only 50 now. Am I right? 50,
Yeah,
51 -ish.
it's 51.
So it's a young man, you know what I mean? And
Well,
I
as we
don't
get
know.
older, it becomes a younger man anyway. I
Oh,
tell you what, I
the
used to
very,
think 51 was ancient.
I used to think, God, I was dreading my 30th birthday. I would get back to that in a minute. But do you know, I don't know. I think that Ange Postecoglou, when he take himself out the equation, you go take yourself out the equation and do what's best, not just for the optics, just for the team on the park, for the morale of the team, for the fans, for your reputation of the club. I don't think Ange did that quite a lot of times. I think he was an excellent manager. He won trophies at Celtic. I think he could have won 2 trebles rather than 1. That's another story. But I think there was a lot of times and a lot of occasions, Europe especially, where I think our team were capable of doing more. Whereas just now, I think we've got a manager who might have to be shooting to do more than what his team's capable of.
That's a
And
great
he'll
point.
get less plaudits than what he got.
Oh, and that is also a fact as well. It'll definitely be all on points, not plaudits for Brendan. We all know the different shift in the narrative that he'll get compared to our previous managers. Just the way it is, unfortunately, folks. But anyway, thank you to everyone who's watched us 181 live. Please do give us a wee like, give us a share, slag the hair. If you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, all that stuff. And as always, keep your eyes on that board.